Okay, so let's start here. Again, if you have any questions questions for the presentation, please do post them on the Q&A icon above. Welcome for people who are online and also for the students who are present with us. Again, this is the professional practice class entitled Planning the Direction of Your Career. I'm going to start this presentation with a message. This message has been sent from the unceded indigenous lands of Toronto. As an immigrant Filipino to this land, I would like to acknowledge and remind everyone that this land I am on, which I stand in solidarity to support indigenous community, who bears the histories and culture we benefit from today. This land is the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is also home for many diverse First Nation, Inuit, Métis people. We must continue to inform ourselves on these past narratives that have been colonially erased and continue the practice of awareness and acknowledgement, not just in empty words, but as a sense of self-reflection and how we all play a part in this narrative. So welcome again. Today we will also have our guest speaker, Neda Omidvar and Nicholas Das. So this talk will cover future-proofing student skills for success for the imminent future of AI and developing awareness about students' key valued skills as currency that AI can never replace. Understanding your skills not only as values, but as currencies that you offer. We can start. I want to begin this intro about a question, ask ourselves what success is. This could be a very convoluted question or a question that is constantly evolving and changing. I saw this post, which I thought was quite interesting, that says creativity is the only cure in a culture that wants you numb. So at times it made me kind of focus about ideologies of success, because everyone do have different ideologies of what success is. Is it money, right? Is that what success is? Is it a career from your skills? Is that what success is? Is it personal growth? I love this quote here. The entire point of life is to be so wildly passionate that people can't decide if you're crazy or a genius. Again, this idea that sometimes it is personal growth, sometimes it could be monetary, but all of these things that we try to kind of unravel to kind of figure out our idea of what success can be. Is it following your passion? This is an image of Neda's company called the Evil Llama and Friends. Is it giving back to the community? Or is it building a community? So, or finding a purpose, right? But at the same time, is it all of this, right? And as we kind of go through our careers and our experiences, we almost kind of create a check mark through all of this ideas as well. I also want to start asking the questions, what if, throughout this focus. No matter what adversity you may face, it's all about visualizing one's own path and strategic plans that directs you to your passion, obsession, interest, and skills. So finding a way to link you in a specific job or career. But then again, what is the job? What is the career, right? Half of the time, we have to, how do we recreate or maneuver ourselves? So we are fulfilling a certain kind of needs that we have. Again, linking to those questions, what if? But what if that market don't exist or limited in accessibility? And I think most of the times, everyone will face this, right? There's this kind of demystification that, maybe there's, how do I enter a specific market? does my niche, does the skills that I have fit those markets? Do I need to create or do I need to search, right, for those communities? Um, Thirdly, your path can benefit on being open to have option one, option two, and option three in your ideal career goals. Ask yourself if all the options you lay for yourself still satisfy your creative needs and skills. Um, Feed the mind so you can feed the soul. Fourthly, again, linking to what if, having the knowledge that you can possess more than one skill. So always evolving, always updating. That is also critical to your own growth and your own success as well. Um, all diverse work experiences that accumulate only helps you through your own growth and process on building increment skills. And we will cover more about increment skills later on through our guest speakers. So I'm going to start with 8 key points of success. Like, I guess these are my personal 8 key points, and I'm sure most of you can create your own key points. It could be 5, could be 6. It's much easier to kind of track your success rates or what worked and what didn't work as well. So what I'm sharing here is through my own lived experience, my own trial and error, shall we say. I just posted this 2 images because it always linked towards what my brother has also told me. The image on the left is during the premiere in LA of The Flash with my mother and my brother Francis Manipul, who is a comic book artist. He did Flash and drawn and created the design. So he got an invitation and was credited for the film's design in it. On the image on the right, we were interviewed the It List with Rachel Cruz talking about how we still stick to our creative outlet, but in 2 different directions. My brother went to DC Comics. I went to more the academic realm of contemporary art making. Also bear in mind that, we came in a family that doesn't have much and, couldn't really afford to have everyone have an education. So this also is a good example about resiliencies and knowing and understanding those key point of steps of success. Because my brother only finished high school, but yet he found success, right? It doesn't matter where you start from. Success is there if you're consistent, if you're diligent. 8 key points of success. So let's start with number 1, right? Skills, talent, and creativity. This is an amazing little graph that I found, how sometimes the work you see is not necessarily, it's only the tip of the entire work and process that one creates. 2, discipline and consistency. Again, these are the personal lists that I started to kind of create for myself. So again, others might have different key points in their own list. Number 3, passion and excitement. Number 4, initiative and persistence. Number 5, dependability and diligence. Number 6, gaining confidence, public speaking, and social skills. Number 7, connection. I think this is the main thing that my brother told me, is that no matter where you start from, cherish those connections. You know how in real estate, it's all about location. In the creative field, it is that bridging point, that connection, and always, I cannot stress enough, it's really connecting to the right people, and that constancy of putting yourself out there, getting to know people. Someone might know someone. A lot of my breaks came from merely talking to someone who is connected to another person. So it's a very kind of a social way of action as well. Number 8, the last one, I find this also quite important, is balance, mindfulness, and meditation Because if you don't have that, it's like one can easily just collapse and just, we can't move forward, right? So again, let's break it down much further. So skills, talents, and creativity. The main important key point to tackle is the number one, right? Skills, talents, and creativity. So building up your skill sets through practice, different ways of creating the same project to get as many iterations as possible, right? Through this consistency, your skills not only develop, but learn through the diverse iterations and failure that becomes a new sense of success through those learning moments. Talent comes through your problem solving, through that failure and criticality that translates that ideology of failure as success. This usually takes time through growth and experience, so continue to be curious, to research in order to inform your process, creativity, and problem solving. If you find it tiresome to do the research, then you're most likely tackling the wrong path, the wrong process, right? Or subject matter. So listen to your gut instinct, right? Most of the time, we tend to forget this. It is your own survival skills sending you a message. Redirect and shift the project or task slightly towards your interest, but not as a shortcut. You will only cut your own growth and learning. Focus on your interest that comes from your lived experience. Remember the times you were excited as a child or the joy you get from a specific memory, and initiate that moment of excitement through your work, which really guides towards the next note. Note that sometimes your skills and talent may not align with your dreams, right? This is when you need to be creative and problem solve along the way, finding alternative solutions. Do you build up more skills and simultaneously create new opportunities that don't exist for you? Again, let's unpack discipline and consistency. How can one tackle this point? So create a strategic goal plans, right? But sometimes plans may derive you directly towards it, and sometimes it can derail. And it's okay if it derails, right? At least you have a vision towards a specific goal. So I find that realistic small increment goals and tasks is quite helpful. That can snowball to a bigger project and accomplishment with anything or any task I find. This will address the times when you feel overwhelmed, confused, and hit a creative block, because your thoughts usually runs faster than the task you usually take on. It's good to have a main final goal, but organizing your main project goal through varied steps, iterations, and visualizing your projects in segments and parts that you can connect together will make your work more manageable and uncomplicated to execute. Because sometimes I find this, you have a huge idea and you're kind of like trying to figure out how to get from point A to point C and D. I find that increment steps helps, right? It's important. It is that process that we allow ourselves, and through that process is also quite important along the way. Respect people's time. This really links towards the disciplines and consistency. Start looking at time as value, and value is time. Therefore, you're respecting each other's values. Number 3, passion and excitement, right? Uh, you could be doing a job or a work or anything creative, and you're like, oh my God, this is just like pulling teeth. I can't even. This is why it's so important that when your passion and your excitement is in that specific work, is in that specific job, the motivation just automatically just links in, right? Then we can just unpack this even further. We work most of our lives just to realize that at the end, we end up with less time, and we are faced to look back to analyze if we were truly happy and satisfied on what we had accomplished. Uh, or are we left with passive contentment and a collection of what ifs? And we covered some of the what ifs in the beginning, but how can we make work feel like play and inject excitement? Maybe that's our mindfulness challenge daily, right? In any aspect that we tackle as well. If we spend most of our life working on a job that aspires us to gain more money or connection towards money, are we gearing towards the wrong direction? That's more of a question that sometimes maybe could not never be answered, but we should be mindful that we still have to fulfill that passion that is in all of us, which is our quest, our goal and dreams. We must be aware that our dreams are not always aligned with our skills. So we may need to be flexible and learn new skills while still maintaining authenticity. It's a lot. That word is quite important, right? Authenticity. What does it even mean? That speaks to your individual interests, which leads us back to the topics of passion and excitement. Never lose your childhood curiosity. I find the older we get, it feels like we get rigid, we get influenced, and we forget to play and allow ourselves to make those mistakes as well, and see mistakes as opportunities of reiterating something new. So that play is quite important. For only through our childhood experience, we have already learned problem solving through creative intervention. Like, really try to remember and reflect throughout your childhood memories, what you've done and how inhibited you are when you're creating something, when you're drawing or crafting something, right? There was no rules, there's no regulations. Also remember that passion comes from obsession, right? I guess it's a healthy version of obsession at that point. Number 4, the initiative and persistence. How can we start thinking to take initiative when no one else will do it for you? I learned this the hard way later on in my career. If I wait for others, it feels like I'm waiting forever. I have to tackle it myself or learn that new skills so the project could be done or finished. To learn how to do it and learn new skills. For time stops for no one, and you may end up waiting and you miss that chance. This brings us back to the initiative and persistence. In return, respect and cherish your time as value. This concept is harder to understand in your early career. It will be an important playing key factor in your future success once you had established yourself and learned a few more skill building experience along the way through problem solving, adversities, and hurdles. Versatility and a nomadic way of creating is another way to evolve and continue to be relevant in an ever-changing creative world. Create a path for yourself, be strategic to research your goals. Do your own self-initiated research and new updated skills, and doing the way along the way to gain momentum and stay relevant. You always hear artists or musicians saying, they're reinventing themselves to keep up to the momentum and going. So it's that idea of, we're not, as creators, we're not only creating in that moment of time, space, we are constantly learning and possibly could reinvent ourselves. It's quite important, and this is coming from someone who used to be a hair and makeup artist, but then I went in interior design. Now I'm in arts. So again, it's like, how do I reinvent myself so whatever skills I have, it's giving me the best chances in every step that I take with me. Remember, again, times keeps on moving. You are the creator that initiates tasks rather than waiting and procrastinating. Get to the roots of your procrastination and ask yourself why you had lost interest. This can be rooted to just lack of interest because you had already grown out of the idea, and the same work you had been doing for a while. So allow yourself to evolve and change and discover new interests. Never stop learning. You can still learn till the end of your life. An artist at heart can never retire. We're always creating. Our mind is always kind of re-questioning stuff. This can also be rooted in more complex ways as trauma, depression, which I will address in the next step. Number 5, dependability and the diligence. So I think it's hard to kind of talk about this without mentioning ideologies of deadlines, and the purpose of it. To prepare you in any creative jobs, art show installation dates, press release deadlines, even if you're in film, photography, animation, all projects have deadlines. And the more team each projects have, the more you will be accountable to the success or setback of the team. This will definitely affect your reliability in those positions, reputation, chances in being recommended, and future success. Meeting deadlines address your organization skills and problem solving skills. Deadline initiates you to make finalized, creative, informed, confident decisions rather than uncertainty and doubt, which incubates learned helplessness that won't help your success. So deadlines does evoke responsibility, accountability, dependability. This is why we show you the importance of deadlines. Yes, there are accommodations in university environments, but remember that some accommodation does not usually reflect the real creative job market. If one don't meet the deadlines expectation, that can destroy your career even before it starts. Companies won't have a problem to get another replacement. Then back to number 5, dependability and diligence. Dependability and diligence in the end. One can train themselves to gain skills and dependability through acts of organization, drive, passion, as we addressed from the last questions we tackled. Diligence, doing all you can to kind of like go against the rules. I found this photograph kind of like interesting when I took it. I saw someone driving a mini car on the sidewalk, and I was like, what? This person is just really totally creating their own rules here. So dependability and diligence, in the end, one can train themselves, but also get to the root of your lateness, delays, and lack of drive. This is a very, very important key. And sometimes this might take time along the way. Trauma and depression, right? Create a mental mindfulness, peace of mind, and balance. That could be through therapy, meditation, mental rest, social supports, healthy diet. Yes, I myself had tried every single one of those to kind of still survive along the way and get motivated, and try not to get so stuck into that dark cloud. And it goes back to the lack of focus, right? When we're tired and stressed, we may decline in focus. Ask yourself how often you have mindfulness meditation, proper rest, or allocated time to even just recharge along the way. Personal issues of life in life, right? Again, getting the proper support from therapy and support groups, through friends, families, or chosen families are quite important. One example, okay, bipolar, borderline personality, post-traumatic stress, depression are just a few examples I myself tackle in my daily life, right? You don't usually see it out there. I have learned to kind of, put it at the side, get the specific thing focused on in a specific job. But again, these are the stuff that have helped me along the way, throughout the difficult times as well. So learning to find ways, the example that had provided, that I had provided from like mindfulness, meditation, proper rest, recharging, or mainly basically logging off during the weekend, medications, diets, and most importantly, have a support network of people. I think this was the most crucial part that I realized, because that idea of the isolation was could get really dark, and it's so hard just to get motivated. That support system of people is important, but also know that occasionally it's okay to feel various of emotions, right? Sometimes we have to let it out, and we need that support. How do we listen to those emotions and tackle it through art therapy and mindful making? And this is when I realized that any kind of creative outlet that I'm doing, I'm also kind of feeding in towards specific ideologies of past trauma. You know, how do I link that? How do I resolve that? When I tackle issues that are difficult and try to find answers that maybe I'm never going to find answers to, but it's okay. It's the process of art making, right? And then you start to find your clan, your kinship, people who really empathize, and people, your community that ends up to be the main thing that will support your success, which goes straight to gaining confidence, public speaking, and social skills in any creative outlets, right? As we unravel any issues, we may face situation that stops us from moving forward and focus to our visualized goals, we automatically address the next point, which is gaining confidence, public speaking, and social skills. I do have a difficulty at the beginning about this one, which is I think it's so important to address. One examples as well through my own lived experience. Yes, I was a shy and introverted, you might not know it now, when I first immigrated to Canada from the Philippines in 1990. I was teased, abused, mocked, and gradually felt that I had to retreat away from society. I then took a step back, reflect, and think about how to move forward. And then I took acting classes and joined an improv team. Through this experience, I had learned to come out of my shell and took chances, able to confidently make mistakes and problem solve on the spot. Um, Again, learned the value of collaboration, community, and learning to laugh at the face of fear, learning to be surrounded by people who depended on you and in return depended on them, as well as learning to project one's voice to be heard, and to know one's value. I think essentially it's like really this process is learning that you have value, right? You know, like when people say, oh my God, you're full of yourself. I'm like, well, no, we need that. We need that to survive. We need that just to kind of get that confidence going, right? Any support group can also become a starting point of self-confidence and self-value, as I experienced growing up, attending, you know, queer youth support groups. Every learning moment, even through it, may not seem to be connected to art, becomes new skills to add towards your future success. As a practicing artist, also someone working in any creative fields of art department, remember that you will always be working and collaborating with other creative people in the business, and you may need to resolve on conversation in a collaborative group meetings when brainstorming ideas in the visual art world. That can also take form of artist residence, artist collective, group shows, in animation, film, and digital art department. That may take the form of a group meeting, brainstorming sessions, screenings, panel reviews, for any creative fields that can take the form of artists, creators, talk, media interviews, publications, and press release. You will also need to be able to have the confidence to pitch your ideas in any art departments, curators, galleries, funders, patrons, and creative directors, and having a bit of that social skills will help you along the way to the next point. This is, I find, the most difficult hurdle, right? And I think once this portion of the adversity you go through it, it does get easier along the way. Number seven, connection, connection, connection. Um, again, as I mentioned, in real estate, it's about location, location, location. In the creative field, it's about connection. Remember, besides applying to artist calls, residencies, creative job position, that at least almost 50% of your success or breaks. This is through my own experience and also from my brother's experience, that, you know, at least 50% of your success breaks and projects are gained through word of mouth and connections, making a great impression to anywhere you are working. Will gain more recommendation and help from others. And, you know, be kind to others, as you never know, the person you are talking to can be your future collaborative project partner. Never assume, never underestimate, when working with curators, creative directors, collaborators. I guess leaving the diva attitude, right? At the side with, and then, you know, just having empathy goes a long way. And this is so critical because there, I remember there's other artists that are so amazing but was, you know, couldn't find a break. It's because, you know, people are having a hard time to work with them, right? So I think it's a critical thing, and maybe there's a lot of things to unpack, you know, mentally through trauma. But, you know, again, if that's also resolved and unpacked before the steps, it gets easier along the way, as well. Know your circle community, right? Understand that you need to be connecting with others who are aligned with you, who are also doing similar research and topics as you. This can become your support and creative circles that will champion you through your success. Remember that this relationship are not reciprocal, and that both of you are benefiting from each other. It's not just a one-way relationship as well. Being in the right place at the right time is never a planned solution, right? Most people say that. It's like, oh, I was in the right place at the right time. I got that gig. But so it is best to do your diligent research and ask yourself, are you in the right city or country for your creative field of interest? Stop thinking only about the city or country you are in. Always think globally to find the perfect fit where you can grow as a creative artist. Everyone has their perfect fit. One just needs to expand their chances globally. Remember, all of you have your audience and community. Your goal is situating yourself into those spaces. If you're not doing any projects lately, be resilient and keep active in your creative community, right? Initiate those chances and mobilize your own pop-up shows or screening if there is no platform for you. Just be strategic. As when I created it, for example, um, you know, if your topics revolves around queer theory or the two-spirit LGBTQIA plus communities, align it during Pride. Creating strategic plans can help you create that momentum, that traffic, that geared audience. It's like what are the best key ways to kind of create that traffic for the skill sets and the work that you're doing. Don't wait for anyone, right? Execute the first step all the way to fruition, intended goal. Last but not least is the balance, mindfulness, and meditation, right? Again, this note, I love this note. Dear artist, remember that your opposite of depression is not joy, it's expression. So create, 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 for it's the only soul's medicine. The artist is the child who survived. This is nothing, it's closer to the truth here. This is the last key important reminder about balance, mindfulness, and meditation. Remember to always carve out time when it is only your time to unplug, recharge, reboot, and connect to people who support you. Doing a mindfulness meditation during your high stress moment can moderate you and your tasks so you don't get burned out. This is critical along the way through the steps I had mentioned earlier. In the end, all these steps can result in relaying your critical narratives to the public with your own unique interpretations of how you see the world. This is the soul, the bouillon cube of the creative mind, and which drives your passion and intent and holistic, sustainable way. Battle learned helplessness. I've been hearing this a lot, right? They did a test of this. The failures don't mean never achieving success. Failure are merely setbacks. We were talking about how Amanda showed a graph of how many declines they got for any grants or applications, and then how many success rates, right? I mean, it's a lot of declines before the success. It's about the consistency, the keep on trying routine, right? Not giving up. I think sometimes it's so easy to just give up and say, okay, I'm going to just stop this. But, you know, we have to keep trying. Something's got to give. I remember, again, the time I immigrated to Canada in 1990. Everything around me was rigged. Think about the time frame of this. And everything around me was rigged for me to fail. School and academia were not created to me and my situation. English was not even my first language. Adjusting to Western culture to assimilate was a challenge. All this under the atmosphere of racism and bigotry. Should I had accepted my failure and setbacks and had stayed working at a factory or any uninspiring task just to survive, I would not be speaking here today. But I knew earlier on that the structure was not created with equity in mind. Tokenism, but not equity. I soon got sick of the setbacks and I realized maybe it's not me failing. It's the structure that allowed me to fail. That's when I realized to start connecting to communities who spoke my language, or communities who understood my queer identity, communities that had taught me to be resilient and remain diligent, consistency, never giving up, combining that with positive thinking and thoughts during meditations and mindfulness. I do believe that our thoughts in our minds have the power to reflect back to us from the universe. This is just I was looking at this. Take a look at the Silva method meditation. Quite helpful, quite helpful. Something had to give, and it did. So persistence, consistency, and being stubborn to never give up to the setbacks and redirect that failure to a direction where your passion, talent, and skills align to the right path, usually the right communities, right? And I think sometimes we try to redirect it to like, okay, this gallery, that format, that job. If you just put that at the side, literally you're connecting yourself to communities within that creative fields that would support you, that would support your goal and support your growth, right? So I just want to leave you with this important keywords on your journey. The 4 C's, right? Curiosity, care, compassion, community. It's a very thinking about all of those 8 steps holistically throughout your career. And maybe you'll discover it much more later on, but maybe you have your own list. You have your own criteria. But, you know, I just presented this 8 steps that had worked for me from my journey through the creative field. Thank you. So let me just stop sharing, and next guest speaker, our speaker number 1, will be Neda. Let me just introduce Neda. Neda Omidvar, owner and founder of Evil Llama and Friends, a witty and quirky stationery and gift goods company based in Toronto, Canada. Their company is about all things cute and colorful and a bit of sass. Neda's inspiration comes from traveling around the world to the wildest, most remote places on Earth, where they study animal behaviors to create new friends for Evil Llama's clan. Their mandate is to show that it's okay not to be okay all the time. Life is constantly throwing us curveballs, so why not throw them right back, right? That's Evil Llama and Friends is a company started as a means to turn COVID anxiety and uncertainty into something productive and entertaining. Neda is a drawing and painting graduate at OCAD University. Before launching this Llama universe, they worked as a director of the commercial art galleries in Toronto for a decade. When the pandemic flipped everything upside down, they returned to their first love, drawing and llamas. Their goal is to pass the same joy along through everyday items like greeting cards, stickers, tote bags, and enamel pins, things that makes you laugh, smile, or roll your eyes, ideally like all the three. So, Neda.
Okay, well, thank you so much. That was a great talk, by the way, Julius. And yeah, so thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. As Julius said, my name is Neda Omidvar, and I'm the owner of a stationery business. And I'm here today to talk about my journey from artist to gallery director to business owner, and to show you how you can create your own journey and find or even create your own dream job. But before I delve into that, let's give you a little bit of a background as to who I am. So this is just a little overview of my business. You can kind of get a sense of my style and the products that I offer. And this is just a fun little shot of my enamel pins. But now we're gonna go back in time. So Julius and I actually met at this very school a million years ago when we were doing our drawing and painting undergrad. And at the time, I had this vague idea that I wanted to become an artist, you know, graduate, paint, put on gallery exhibitions, maybe have a gallery representative, all that stuff. Because back in the day, we just assumed if you're studying drawing and painting, the only paths to take after school are to become a painter, an exhibiting artist, or to become a teacher. Well, we graduated and I had a few shows to my name, but I soon realized I wasn't making any money doing that. So the closest thing that I could think of to being an artist was actually working at a gallery. I was always interested in the business side of the art world and just the daily operations of a gallery, the ins and outs. And I was like, yeah, why not? Let's take a shot and see what happens. So I started applying to like every single gallery in Toronto that I could think of. And the rejection started pouring in. It was just like one rejection after another. Oh, thank you. And no one was hiring me because I had no experience. But how was I to get experience if I couldn't get my foot in the door? Eventually, one gallery named Barbara Edwards Contemporary said yes, but it was an intern position, a non-paid position. And I thought to myself, you know what, heck it, nothing is happening. I'll accept the job. I was actually excited to start working at this gallery because Barbara represented some of my favorite artists, including Eric Fischel, who that's one of the shows that you can see over there. The other artists that I loved were Betty Goodwin, Jessica Stockholder, William Kentridge, just to name a few. These people were at the top of the contemporary art world, and I was just really excited to get my foot in the door. And here I am. This was actually my first gallery opening that I did. Here I am introducing one of the artists. Those shoes were in fashion back in the day, don't judge. Yes, exactly. This is another artist that I mentioned, William Kentridge, a really well-known South African artist. And, you know, of course, I had to take on part-time jobs to feed myself and pay the rent, but I was really excited about this gallery job. I was very passionate. And it was actually my passion and work ethic that got me promoted to assistant curator to curator. Here I am doing a curatorial talk on a Betty Goodwin exhibition that I put together, to gallery director. So that was a job with a full-time job with a salary and health benefits and all that jazz. And that was it. That was the moment that I had been dreaming for. It was really my dream job come true, and life was great. So another 7 years went by. So here I am now. It's been about 10 years that I'm working at the gallery. And I thought, well, this is it. I'm probably going to be working here until the day I die. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. You know, I wasn't as like content as and excited as I was at those first few years when I got the job, but I was good. I was content. It was comfortable territory. I had become very good at my job at that point. I could do it with my eyes closed in my sleep. I had really become an expert at what I had to do. And I never really saw myself taking any other path in life until, boom, 2020. That was the year that changed everything.
That was fun.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's it. I don't want to bring back the PTSD of the time, but we were all going through it, right? All of a sudden, we're stuck in lockdown with nothing to do. And I gotta say, it was kind of fun at first. It was the beginning of all of our Zoom parties. Here's a Zoom party. Here's another one. This is actually us doing Zoom karaoke, ironically singing about isolation. This is Julius's birthday party. And as you might have guessed, Julius was the host of a lot of these Zoom parties. And at that time, I was so tired of having a full-time job with these never-ending responsibilities that it was just kind of nice having all this time to myself all of a sudden. But after a couple of months, I felt like I was starting to go crazy. I really needed structure to my day. So I went back to my true love of drawing, and I just started doodling. I also had this idea that I wanted to learn how to do silkscreen and make t-shirts, because why not? We're stuck in lockdown. What else is there to do? So bless the internet. I don't know, maybe sometimes, not all the time. But I went on YouTube and Reddit and learned all that I could about silk screening, bought all the stuff, and set up this really basic silk screening studio at home. And I took these drawings that I used to have. So I always loved drawing these like silly cartoon animals, things that weren't really seen as fine art back when I was at OCAD. But here I was, no one was telling me what to do or what not to do. So I was like, you know what,
I'm gonna tell you that's kitsch art.
Yeah, exactly. And I turned that into my business.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, I'm just gonna take these drawings and turn them into t-shirts because it's a fun thing to do. And before I knew it, a bunch of my friends actually wanted t-shirts. So I started making shirts for them as well. And so this is one of the, it's a process photo, but it's a series of shirts that one of my friends actually commissioned me to do for his daughter's 5th year birthday party. So that was a fun little COVID project to have. And here you can see my disaster of a home office studio. So I actually sort of took over the dining room, and this is the dining table that I turned into my studio. You know, you work with what you got.
Yeah. Don't wait for that studio.
Exactly.
Like everywhere is your studio.
Exactly. Everywhere is your studio. And this is just to show you of the super basic setup that I had. So it's a 1-color printing press attached to my desk in my room. And here I am making the t-shirt that I'm actually wearing right now. Just I'm promoting my own merch. And yeah, and there you go. It's just starting to add more t-shirts to the collection. And while I was doing this, one of my friends was like, well, you should sell these on Etsy. And I thought, yeah, why not? I have all these shirts now. Why don't I do something about it? So I had to come up with a name because my Etsy store needed a name. And I started brainstorming, and I came up with Evil Llama. And if you're wondering why llama, let's see if you can get a hint here. So here I am with the baby llama, me and llama. Me feeding a llama.
Again, the obsession that I'm talking about.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. Me walking a llama. Me kind of looking like a llama. Yeah, I love llamas. They are my favorite animal. And evil was just a way to, because I was like, how do I make it funny? And then I came up with Evil Llama. And they're cute animals, but they're actually evil. So I feel like the name is very fitting. So I photographed all my products, opened the Etsy store, announced it to my friends and family. I put it on Facebook because, yes, I'm old. I use Facebook. And to my total surprise, strangers started ordering these shirts. But what I could do with silkscreen was very limited because of my basic setup at home. And even though I enjoyed the process, my true passion wasn't really in printmaking or in clothing. It was drawing. So that got me thinking, what can I make that is easily accessible to people, has a low price point, but is in high demand and is easy to ship? And that got me thinking. I was like, oh, greeting cards, because that is essentially just drawing on a piece of paper. Yeah, and it wasn't, yeah, my passion was never fashion or printing, it was drawing. And so that's what I did. I got a color printer with a scanner function, and I got some blank Strathmore cards and added a line of greeting cards to my shop as well. So this is just a little overview of my birthday cards. And now the same friend who told me to open an Etsy shop was telling me that I needed a website. So then there was like more research and brainstorming, and I'm from a different generation. I'm not tech savvy at all, I even needed help setting this up. So yeah,
the visceralness.
Yeah, exactly. Like this was just not my realm. I just want pen and paper, my watercolor set. I don't want to be bogged up in all the digital stuff. And now I'm starting to sound like Grandpa Simpson and like yelling at the cloud. But, I soon realized that I had to get on with the days, and having a website was necessary because it allowed me to have full control over my brand, and it was just a way to be taken more seriously. So I started looking up domain names, and evillllama.com was actually taken. It's a graphic design company. Wow. So that got me thinking again. I was like, well, now what? And that's when I had my eureka moment. I was like, Evil Llama and Friends, because I don't just draw llamas. I have all these other characters as well. And the llama may be evil, but she actually has friends. And that's how this universe was born. So let's just give you a little overview of all the products that I offer now. But yeah, so I delved into skills that I had and thought about what needs I could fulfill for people. I didn't start with wanting to create a stationery business or a greeting card business. I just had this idea that I wanted to draw, and I had to think about how to make it work in a non-traditional way, meaning other than just being a traditional painter. And when I first started doing all this, my plan was to still go back to the gallery. This was just a hobby that I was doing at the time, something to fill my time when we were stuck in lockdown, with fun and creativity, because I really had to take my mind off the anxiety and the uncertainty of the time. It was a dark time, and I thought we all needed some fun and humor, and this was my way of trying to help just a tiny bit. But the more I stuck with it, the more I realized how much I loved it. I had created something that was entirely my own vision, my own art, my own creative directing. And all of a sudden I thought to myself, I don't want to go back to the gallery anymore. This is my passion now, and I want to pursue it. And listen, my time at the gallery was great. It really was. There were some bad times, as there is with any kind of a job or a relationship, but the great times really overpowered the bad times. But after 10 years of working there, I really thought that I had climbed every ladder in that position that I could. I just didn't really think there was any more room for growth because I had been promoted to gallery director. There was really no more higher position. And staying there meant working for my boss forever. I mean, yes, I was the director, but she was the owner. So it would ultimately always be her vision, her project, not mine. Yeah, so 2 years ago is when I decided that I was going to quit and pursue my own business full time. And this was not an easy decision to make, and it didn't happen overnight. I spent over a year looking at different business grants and loans. I wrote a business plan. I did a cash flow projection where I actually had to estimate the amount of money that I was going to need, what I would be spending, what I would be making. And I found community and mentors to guide me in developing my own business. And only when I had a plan and a solid idea of how I wanted to move forward is when I decided to quit the gallery job. And it was a hard conversation to have, especially because over the years, Barbara and I have become very close friends, but she was very supportive and understanding. And I don't see this as a failure or a waste of time at all. I simply see it as me just closing one chapter of my life and opening a new one. Yeah, and I learned so much during my time at the gallery, and I've been able to bring so many of these skills into my own business. And I don't even think I would have been where I am today had I not been through that path initially. I learned so much about how to run a business, how to manage clients and vendors, how to do fairs and build booths. And a lot of those skills were directly transferable to my own current business. In life, we have to be flexible and able to adapt at what situation we're put in. And just because you choose one path in life, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be the path that you choose for the rest of your life. You should be able to take control of your path and decide where to go, when to pivot, when to pause or even stop, because sometimes stopping is necessary. It's important to try and recognize your own limits and pause as needed, because as Julius mentioned earlier, burnout is real and you want to try and avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah. And it will happen. It does happen. And you just need to resurface again.
Yeah,
like, okay,
exactly.
What's
That's when you do the Silva method.
Yeah.
Right? You go and you meditate and you come back. So here we are 2 years later, and where I've been running my business full time. You can see my current studio is not that much different from my COVID days. It's still the dining room table that I work out of. Maybe just a little bit more art supplies other than like t-shirt and silk screening supplies. But I've learned so much throughout the years, and there's been failures and rejections, of course, but also so much growth and support along the way. Did I ever in a million years think I was going to one day have my own stationery business? Absolutely not. But do I love it? 100%. What I'm trying to tell you is don't be stuck on one idea, one path forever. Now is the best time for you guys to explore and dabble into different things and to change your mind. If you pick one thing and for whatever reason it doesn't work out, go find something else. Don't let the failure defeat you, as Julius was talking about that too, right? So don't let the failure defeat you. Instead, learn from it. There's a lesson learned from every mistake. How not to do something is just as important as how to do something. Be fluid and flexible in your plans, but also don't be half-hearted about something as well. Exploring and pivoting is absolutely fine, but if you pursue something, be really passionate about it. Give it your all and then decide if it's not what you wanted. Only then start looking for something else. It's important to recognize your own strengths and weaknesses. What are you really good at? What are you passionate about? What skills do you have and what can you do with them? And how can you monetize those skills? Because we live in a consumer society and money is important. You need to be able to feed yourself at the end of the day. Yeah, exactly. It is unfortunate, but it's the reality. So yeah, think about what you can offer others with your skills and what needs you can fulfill. And I think Nick's gonna talk about that more in depth in a bit. But yeah, so in just a few short years, I've gone from selling t-shirts on Etsy to being stocked in over 30 stores across North America. I've exhibited at multiple retail and wholesale shows in Canada and the States before all the Trump tariff stuff. But yeah, this is me building my actual big booth. I always, prior to this, I always used to just show with like a little table set up at these markets, but then I decided it was time to upgrade to a big booth. So here I am building the booth with real walls and everything at home. And let's show you the little booth reveal. So this is what I call my big girl booth. Yeah, and so I've gone from doing that to, yeah, so this is where we have gone, where we have come now. And I've enrolled in a business development course, won a few scholarships and grants, and I was just recently nominated for the Louis Awards, which is essentially the Oscars of the greeting card industry. So, well, no, it's fine. We don't know yet. I've only been nominated. Let's not jump forward. But hey, do wish me luck. I appreciate the applause. And yeah, here I am sharing my experience with you all today. And am I scared of failure? Absolutely, like really every single day. But my passion for the job is what gets me going every day as well. Having your own business is a really scary thing, and I work now more than I ever did, even back when I was running a gallery, and I don't pay myself nearly as much, but it's so worth it. And dreams and goals can change, and I went from having a dream job when I was the gallery director to having a dream job now where I get to draw as a crucial part of my job, be my own boss, and set my own schedule. And as Julius mentioned earlier, anywhere can be your studio. Nowadays, I've learned to embrace the technology and be like, oh, I can work remotely from anywhere. So my 2 cents to you is, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Be vulnerable and be ready to take calculated risks. What I mean by calculated risk is making informed decision backed by thorough research, strategic planning, and weighing the pros and cons of something against each other. The go big or go home mentality applies to a lot of circumstances, sure, but not everything. Sometimes taking a micro risk is much better than a big, bold decision where you don't know the outcome. I believe in slow, steady growth. And success never happens overnight anyways. These celebrities that we call overnight sensations like Chapel Roan, they did not get there overnight. It took them years to finally reach the level of fame and success that they have. So don't forget that. Another important thing is to remember to do not be afraid of failure or rejections. The more you put yourself out there, the more failures the more rejections you'll face, for sure. But you also open more doors to possibilities. And you'll never be able to please everyone anyways. As someone who makes cards and has a product-based business, I know that my products aren't for everyone. And that's okay. You need to find your audience, your niche, and cater to that, not everyone. Listen, I did 2 wholesale shows with 0 sales. It was my biggest nightmare, and it actually came true. Did I cry? Yeah, a little bit. But did it kill me? No. Things are bound to crap out from time to time, but you need to give yourself permission to be okay with it. You know, cry a little bit if you want to. That's okay. But just get back up and keep going forward. And you know what? You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. Unless you have a deadline coming up, then you might be behind. So go get to work. And that is all. Thank you so much for listening to my story.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And that's the thing, right? That's the lesson where, you know, and maybe this is not the final venture for you. You know, maybe it might evolve again and again. You know, I mean, we're all still young, right? So our next guest is Nicholas Das, and his talk is Building Your Career After Your BFA, How to Be Relevant in an AI World. Our second guest speakers, critical topics will cover how to navigate the new AI future landscape for creatives, artists without compromising their valued skills. They will cover future proofing student skills for success for the imminent future of AI and how one can make AI work for them rather than the other way around. How to avoid having AI replace your creative job skills. Nicholas focuses on developing intelligent, scalable software products that integrate technology, business strategy, and human-centered design. He holds a Master's of Management in Artificial Intelligence and a Master's of Digital Production Management from Queen's University, as well as a Bachelor's of Computer Science. His academic and professional work spans finance, healthcare sustainability, and emerging technology, including projects with Royal Bank of Canada, Alta ML, and Solar Offset. Outside of his professional work, he is deeply interested in creativity, personal growth, and how people build meaningful careers in fast-changing economics. He is passionate about helping students and early career professionals identify their unique currency, the skills, representatives, and value they bring to the world and turn it into sustainable, future, fulfilling work. Nick.
Right.
Okie dokie.
Okay, thank you very much, Julius. So yes, I'm Nicholas, and thank you all for being here. And once again, thanks, Julius, for inviting me today to give this talk. So As Julius alluded to, I come from a tech background, but I'm not here to convince anyone to turn into software developers, engineers, that sort of thing. I am here because I understand that a lot of you are going to be either graduating soon or on your way to that final phase of your end of your studies. And there are two realities that are going to be faced by you. So one is a very practical reality, which is, simply life. You've got maybe rent and just expenses that are coming up, your first job, that sort of thing. The second is more structural, and that has to do with how the current workplace is changing with respect to the adoption of artificial intelligence. So expectations, what you're expected to do, what you're expected to produce, that's all changing. And that also affects how you compete in the workplace, or when you compete for getting a job, and putting yourself out there in retrospect. So let me just go ahead with the second one. I say, okay, that does not work. Give me a second here. Okay. Also, I apologize in advance. My slides do not have a lot of images. It's mostly text, so bear with me with that. So why this talk exists. So I know that in school, you're primarily rewarded for exploration, originality, expression, and that's great. However, in the working world, it does work a little bit different. It runs on a different system. So it primarily runs on usefulness, timing, and trust. There are a lot of creative artists that struggle not because they lack talent, but because no one has really explained or made the connection between what they do, as well as the money, opportunity, and stability. So today I'm hoping that I can provide you with sort of a mental model that you can use as you maybe start your first job, or maybe it could be sort of a pursuit that you end up in terms of your professional pathway, and that you can also take as you move forward in the years after. Okay. Now, this particular slide might sound harsh, but it is meant to be grounding and not discouraging. I have met incredible artists who are constantly stressed and are not quite clear on what their path is, but I've also met artists who are extremely happy with what they're doing. They have sort of clarity, mental clarity with where they'd like to go down the road. Now, the difference is rarely talent. It's really regarding whether other people clearly understand what you're useful for. And really, that's it. Once you understand that, your career becomes something that you can design and not something that randomly just happens to you. Now, just to get some calibration in this room, I just like to get an idea. So if everyone could put your hands up if you fall into any of these categories, just to get an idea of whether you're about to graduate, maybe perhaps you're nervous about, money, or maybe you have no idea what your first job will be. But just to get an idea from this room, if you'd be so kind to let me know out of everyone here. Okay, so we have one person. Is there anyone else?
The first question: who is excited to graduate?
Okay, some of you, all right. But I didn't want to focus on specific people. I just wanted like a general idea, not to call anyone out. But just, I guess where I'm going with this is essentially what this means is that you're honest, and I think this will really help as we go into the slides after. And most people do feel this way, so it's not something new. It's just not said out loud. And I think you'll see this also a little bit in the self-reflection slide that I have later on as well. So a little bit about my path. Now, it's nothing special, but it was a little bit messy. So as Julius mentioned, I did my undergrad in computer science. At the time, it was something I was really interested in, and it felt practical. And it also provided me the opportunity to chase problems that I wanted to solve, just because it was something of interest to me. Now, once when I was doing my undergrad, I did a whole bunch of internships, and I eventually ended up working at a bank. It was a great job. I worked with a great team, and then I ended up moving from the consumer mobile banking team to capital markets. Once again, I was interested in working on different problems, so that's why I ended up changing teams. After that, I went back to school, and then I did my graduate studies in artificial intelligence and digital product management, and now I'm in the area of AI product management. The reason why I'm talking about this is at no point did I sit down and plan this all out in terms of a map. I just basically kept stacking skills and following problems that really interested me. The reason why I mention this is because most people think that careers are ladders. You pick a thing that you might do at 20 and you climb it forever, and that is outdated. That does not exist anymore. Careers are now they closely more resemble sculptures, in that you start with a block of material, that might be your degree, your interests, your abilities, and then you really carve it, you add tools, you sort of remove directions that don't fit, or you reshape it. The people that really do well are the ones who don't choose perfectly, and essentially the ones who keep adapting, because that's especially true in today's career landscape. Coming up with a 5-year plan is not going to help you, because things are changing so quickly, and the skills that you pick up, as you move forward, they're changing so quickly. And with that being said, too, it's not that you have to be part of this rat race. It's just that if you do end up in sort of the career pathway, these are some of the expectations and some of the things that you might see. If, say, for example, you were to join an organization, and the expectation that, how quickly you should move, for example. Now, one of the most important things I wanted to introduce to you guys today is something called your currency, right? And this really does change everything, and this is something that you will take as you move throughout your career, or even in your own professional individual pursuits. Now, your currency is simply this: why someone should choose you over any other option. It is certainly not your transcript. It is certainly not the list of software tools that you use, and it's certainly not the Instagram followers that you have. When someone hires you, when they commission you, collaborate with you, fund you, what they're essentially doing is they're making a bet. And they're betting that you will solve a specific problem for them better than any of the other options out there. And that bet is your currency, which is essentially what you bring to the table. Now, when it comes to currency, typically it consists of 5 things. And just to sort of break it down a little bit more, craft is really about how well you actually execute. Perspective is what you notice that others don't. Problem fit has to do with whose problem you're solving. Trust is whether people can actually rely on you. And distribution has to do with if anyone even knows you exist. Now, many artists focus only on craft, and that's necessary. However, it's not sufficient. You can be brilliant and invisible at the same time. So it's something that I highly recommend you take away from this particular presentation as you move forward, particularly this given time of how the career landscape is changing, and sort of how you work with sort of your own workflows as you move forward. Now, I'm just going to pause a little bit here, and this slide is very intentional, and this is specifically a slide that's meant for you guys. So the headings are you, and these are your actual programs. So we have experimental animation, life studies, sculpture and installation, drawing and painting. Julius, I think I've covered most of it. Now, what's underneath each of these is not what you must do, but what your skills can translate to in the real world in terms of where you might end up or where you might consider possibilities, exactly. And there are so many out there, but this is just to sort of give you an idea of how you can sort of transfer your skills in these other areas. So, for example, if you are in experimental animation, you're not just limited to films or galleries. You are certainly someone who understands, motion, timing, narrative, and visual explanation, and that's really good for startups, product teams, education platforms, science communication. If you're in life studies, you are the intersection of art and science. And that really puts you in a great category because there are a lot of research labs, medical visualization, environmental organizations, museums, data storytelling. And these are fields that people really need who can take complexity and make them really understandable. If you are in sculpture and installation, you understand space, materials, physical experience, how bodies move through environments. And that's great for exhibition design, architecture firms, experiential marketing, public art, interactive brand spaces. And with respect to drawing and painting, you're building visual language, composition, mood, identity, and that really translates into illustration, branding, concept art, publishing, games, and product design. And the reason why I talk about this is that your skills are really meant to travel with you, and you're not sort of just boxed in for the rest of your life. These are the skills that you build in your program are really, skills that you can take really anywhere. It's just a matter of eventually finding who you will be serving, and that's something that I cover in the next bunch of slides.
I think this is so important to remember that, to know that it's not a one direction path, right? If you do that, you hit a roadblock, then what? You have to be open that there are different ways you can approach this simultaneously.
Exactly, yeah. Now, I have a slide called Hard Truth. I say if nobody needs what you do, it's a hobby. If someone needs it, it becomes a career. Artists survive by serving. This slide is blunt, but I do want you to hear the tone underneath it. It really is about survival. Organizations, they don't owe us anything. They don't owe us income. They certainly don't owe us attention. However, they do reward you when you are useful in distinctive ways. And that doesn't mean that you sell out. It really is about choosing work or choosing where your work lands. And I think that's really important as you sort of progress in your career. And it's something that you remind yourself, because sometimes, and this has happened to me as well, you sort of stick in a particular position because you feel stuck and you don't want to go anywhere else. Or when you do have a job, it's a pretty important thing, because if you say to yourself, well, I don't like it anymore, where am I going to go? It can be a very lonely feeling, right? So it's something that the last sentence, or the thing that I mentioned about choosing where your work lands, is extremely important, because you don't want to be stuck in an organization or an environment where you regret, or you end up becoming unhappy, which just sort of adds to your dissatisfaction in the work that you produce. Now, there is no single path. There is a myth that there's always this correct path, but that does not exist. It's really about what you want to do, right? Typically, most people do blend them, and I call it kind of career mixing. But I've sort of come up with sort of 3 different areas, and I'll start with the first one, which is the independent creator path. And this is something that Neda has so kindly gone through with Evil Llama and Friends, so thank you very much for that. It can be really nice and a lot of fun, but it also means that you are your own, your own marketing department, your accounting department, sales, customer support, sometimes engineering. And if you choose this, you're not just an artist anymore. You are all these things together. So you're essentially running a small company or a business. Now, some people love that, and some people don't. but neither is wrong. And, like I said, this is something that could be extremely fulfilling, which is what Neda has really gone through. And there's a lot of personal connection to that. So some of you might find that actually interesting. The next is what I call applied creative. Now, this is where your creativity lives inside an organization, right? So you trade some of your autonomy for stability, mentorship, and resources. The biggest adjustment here is learning that art becomes collaborative and your work has constraints. So now you're working with budgets, timelines, stakeholders, and that doesn't kill creativity, it just reshapes it based on the outcomes that you're expected to produce. So this is something that you want to keep in mind, as an artist, as you sort of wrap up your time here and decide which is this path that you want to pursue. The third and then last is what I call hybrid, and this is a mix. So this is really where you're not dependent on one income stream. Someone might teach and freelance. They might work in studios and sell personal work. They do contracts and build their own projects. It might not be glamorous, but it is certainly resilient. And really, this is what even non-artists do. So if you, say, for example, are let's just say you're a engineer or a software developer, you might even do this, you might sort of fall into the hybrid sort of category as well, where you have your full-time job and you have sort of side projects on the side projects, that's right, not on the side, that was a duplicate, where you're generating your own income, you're working on stuff that you like. You might even be a gamer, that you're into game development, you do your boring stuff from 9 to 5, not necessarily boring, but your regular job from 9 to 5, and you actually work on things that you like to produce. And that's how I would imagine a lot of the games that you guys might actually end up playing if you're a gamer get produced. A lot of people that end up publishing some really really popular games in Steam end up sort of choosing as a pathway. So those are really the three independent so three pathways in terms of what you might consider as you move towards graduation. But one of the things I want to make sure that I bring up is this idea called the skill stack mindset, okay? I want you guys to think less of yourself as a label and more of a stack of capabilities. And this goes back to what I talked about in my path, which is, as I sort of moved forward, I was just picking up stuff and like kind of adding it on. And this could mean, you're an artist plus a storyteller. You are an animator plus researcher. You're a sculptor plus technologist. So each additional layer increases the number of problems you can solve, as well as the number of people that might be willing to pay you as well.
And this is perfect for a resume, right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like these are the important lists that manifest inside your resume.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Absolutely, no, for sure. No, that's essentially what. If you are in fact applying for careers at organizations, a lot of recruiters will want to see that, because especially in today's day and age, one is not going to cut it. You're going to need a multitude of skills to really to sort of stand out amongst the crowd, because you are going to be competing with a lot of people. So now, this group activity we'll do at the very end, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to take away, to sort of translate theory into practice. I didn't want you guys leaving here with just concepts. And essentially here, when we get to the group activity later on, which is at the very end, we like to, the whole point of this is to design what it's like to design value for yourselves. Here, the questions that I have under the middle column is essentially a career cheat code that you can essentially take, from the time you start your first job to whatever it is that you do down the road. And this is how you essentially almost sort of do self-reflection, but you continuously do this. And this is how you sort of customize the skill set stack that you'll be adding to each of you guys, and sort of individually in that sense. But yes, so we will come back to this at the very end. For the folks who are online, you can certainly do this in your own time. But like I said, we'll come back to this at the end of the presentation. So ideally, if we had done the group activity, I was going to do a self-reflection, but I want to talk about the self-reflection. So once you go through this exercise of designing value for yourself, the point here is to really notice something important. And it's the idea here is that, and I'll repeat this when we do the group activity, is that none of these ideas really require you to become someone else. You don't need to be louder, you don't need to be more corporate, you don't need to be more technical, all right? You already have that leverage. It just needs direction, right? And I think that is something that's really important, is to get direction and clarity, especially when you're about to graduate, especially when you're about to start, whether it's your career or even if you have sort of individual pursuits based on those three different pathways you end up choosing. Now, when it comes to practical survival rules, so this is based on both my experience as well as the experiences of people that I've worked with very closely over the course of my career. And, you know, there are a lot of talented people, and I'm sure that there are a lot of talented people in this room. However, there are also a lot of people who are, or we are short on people who are not able to, for example, reply to emails, meet deadlines, and communicate clearly. And this is something that Julius had talked about earlier in his presentation, about some of the skills that you do need to have. And the reason why I talk about this is because reliability is quietly one of the most valuable skills you can have and develop. If you cannot show that you're reliable, whether it is in the workplace or in your individual pursuits, if you become an independent creator or hybrid or whatever it is, then you do not meet the trust component of currency, which is people trust you to solve their problems. If they cannot rely on you or depend on you, you have lost a very big part of that currency. And that's extremely important. If you take this as part of your own individual lives and you talk about trust, that is sort of part of the basic foundational aspect of your interactions with others, right? If people can't trust you, they don't typically turn to you. And in the career world, or even in your, if you choose to decide to go into an independent career path, that's extremely important, because if your employer can't trust you or your customers can't trust me, you are not going to move forward in either of those pathways. Okay, so I have this one slide on AI and automation, and the reason why I have one slide is because it's not about learning all the different models, LLMs and whatnot. I can literally go on about that. The focus that I'm hoping you guys will take away is about mindset. Learning, and using these AI tools is not hard. It's very easy. When you get into the workforce, you're expected to use these tools day in, day out. And the reason why is because you're measured on productivity. And that's part of your I want to call it basically your mid and end of year review, which is quite different from sort of a school setting, because I understand that there's a lot of limits on using, sort of AI tools, and that's understandable. It's a different environment, but in the workforce, you are expected to do that because you have to produce as much work that you would not have done if you didn't have access to these tools. And the idea here is that you have to become now 10x. You'll be hearing a lot of this 10x, 20x, whatever x, as you decide to move out into the career world, or even if you do pursue your independent pathway, you'll find that you'll end up using these tools because it does make you more productive. But it's just something to keep in mind, as you sort of make that shift, from school and make and you start to work in organizations or for yourself. But what I do want to say is one of the things that people, especially in the working world, one of the biggest fears is the actual onset of artificial intelligence and how mainstream it's becoming. And the reason why is because they're essentially afraid of losing their positions, right? Because a lot of these tools are developing, they're basically developing at a really rapid pace, so much so that some jobs are actually going at a pace. But the real reason why they're going at a pace is it's not so much the job itself, and I think I allude to this in my next couple of slides. The job title doesn't stay the same. It either changes or it just sort of folds. It sort of folds into something else. It sort of as part of what's called an optimization approach. But it is how you use these tools based on the skill sets that you have. So when it comes to artists, my honest take on it is that it's really, AI is not really here to eliminate creativity, but it is here to reshape how you use it in terms of how creative work is done. The people most at risk are not artists, but they are people who, the people that are most at risk are people who stop learning, who refuse to adapt, and people who build an identity essentially around doing one thing and one thing only. The advantage that I want to point out to you guys that you have as an artist is that you are already trained to experiment, to observe, to reinterpret the world based on you. And if you keep that mindset, you'll certainly stay relevant. And those are some really important skills and traits that artists have that typically, and I can tell you this, that technical people don't. Technical people try to learn it, but it takes time. From a technical perspective, you can do a lot of the engineering, and in fact, for technical people, I'd say that they're probably more at risk of artificial intelligence than artists, because there's fluidity about artistry that AI is not able to do right now.
This is
Oops.
By the way, that list.
Yes.
I never thought about that list, but this is so crucial and important, right? I would even keep this note to keep reminding ourselves.
And just a quick note about the first point, unclear thinkers, and to be more specific, that has to do with the group activity with respect to the questions that you guys will go through, but essentially it's continuously asking those questions over and over again as you move throughout the years to ensure that you stay relevant and useful to the people that you are serving. Okay, so your long game. Now, with respect to your long game, what I would say to you is that you are not meant to stay the same person as you move on in your life. If you do, I strongly share with you that that won't suit you as you move forward. You can certainly protect your values, but your job title does not stay the same. It will change. And at the rate that things are changing right now, trust me, your job will change very quickly. And the expectations that you will have or that are placed upon you will also change very quickly as well. So what I say in this slide is you will change, your interests will certainly change, your medium may change, but don't cling to your identity. What you really should focus on is just building those transferable value and skills that you can sort of take and make yourself valuable and dependable as you move forward. Now, my final thoughts here are that I really wished someone had provided this to me earlier on in my career. And the reason why I say that is your degree is material. However, your career isn't, because the reason why is because you design your career. And you are certainly allowed to redesign your career as many times as you want. The final note that I will leave you with, and I know that Julius has mentioned this in his presentation as well, is that you have to remember who you're serving and why. And that is all I have for you today.
Thank you. I do like that quote here, don't ask, will art survive? Ask, how will I make my art useful?
Yes.
But, sometimes useful, like, in a way that did it help societies,
correct, yeah,
right, as well? Because, there's different, and I think when we think about the word art, it's like, sometimes I want to think about art as anything within the creative fields, right? These kind of templates that we all talked about today is not only a one way of making, it's what could you do with your interests, your skills in creating, and how many kind of facets you can venture. Again, do not only gear your direction to one way. Like I've always mentioned this, it's like don't put everything in one basket.
Yeah.
And egg something in one basket, put it everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah,
No, that's
you have-
not the same.
No. You diversify, but you know.
No, but I guess right now I'm gonna just stop recording. But before we answer a few questions from online or also here.